Hey, Brian Park here with another exciting video. It's the video after the big shadow, the eclipse, and the power is still on. Maybe much to do about nothing. Anyway, here's something that we have a lot to do with, and that is another creditor self-defense against a big one, Capital One. I always have fun with Capital One in that when I have a Capital One case, so if I'm going against the PRA, Portfolio Recovery Associates, in brackets I say PRA, so I don't have to keep repeating in the lawsuit, Portfolio Recovery Associates, comma LLC. So, or if it's Midland Credit, it's MCM. So with Capital One, it's CapOne. It's a very famous person from the 20s and 30s, and that's every time I mention Cap One, you can see it. You read it for yourself. So what are we doing today other than that silly stuff? We're looking at how to defeat a Capital One creditor lawsuit. So a couple of things to look at. Again, while I might and will repeat the same techniques for each creditor, my members, clients, or whatever are looking at this stuff in a vacuum, so they don't know about Discover or JP Morgan. They are looking at this, so forgive me if it's repetitive, but it all works. You're turning the creditor, which in this case is Cap One, CapOne, into a debt collector. You're saying, where is the debt in the lawsuit? That's all. If I'm accused, if the burden of proof is on them to prove I owe a debt, where's the word debt? Look at the securitization of it all regarding servicer. By the way, when I did my research, and I always do a little research for you and do some show notes, which are on my membership website along with everything else I'll give you today. This was the most securitized company that I could see. It's all over the place. So I add a little extra to my show notes. I think it's called Capital Funding Corporation, which are one of the securitization companies. They call themselves Comet, which, as I'm reading my notes here, is what's part of the, well, it's actually COMT, Collateral Certificate, blah, 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 but they call themselves Comet, the Capital One Master Trust. That's where everything is dumped. So let's do this. So, all right, let me give you the lawsuit, Shazam. So that's the lawsuit from Capital One. As I always do, I think it's so much more beneficial for you if I don't just say it, I show it. In trial courses, we need demonstrative evidence. If you can tell someone about something, but if you show someone something, now they can get their teeth into it. So I try to not just tell you how to do something, I try to show you. And so this is an actual case against my client. And again, let's see if I can put 2 pages, first and second, bomba bomba, if it's not already up there. You can see I've circled the word account. You will not see the word debt in this case, and it's quite interesting. And what does that all mean? Well, if they owned the debt, Cap One, then they would say he did not pay the debt or she did not pay the debt. But they say account. Why? Because that's all they got. They've got an account of what was owed. And if you don't believe me, to support a case in any breach of contract, account stated case, you have to have the contract or an affidavit. They have an affidavit. Shazam, let me put up the affidavit. And it's a little grainy. And by the way, the signatures really bother me. I used to do a lot of mortgage-backed security and mortgage work back in the day of the crisis. And I became really good at figuring out if a signature is false or a robo type thing. And there were certain things and symptoms. This has a lot of that. Not pointing fingers, but when you see a grainy signature and the format is separate from the format of the actual affidavit, that starts my brain going. So, but in this case, what starts my brain going, the word debt is not in the affidavit. Somebody, please, if you're pursuing my client for a debt, say it. Why so shy? Because they don't have it. Where is it? It's in the securitized trust. So to use their words, it's in Comet, which is the Capital One Master Trust. And they literally, at the origin of the obligation, when you sign up for the debt, it gets securitized almost immediately, at the very least, the receivables. And who owns that? Well, if CapOne owned it, you'd see the word debt. They own just an accounting. You can't be sued on accounting. There's no such thing as an account collector. It's a debt collector. So this thing gets dumped into the master trust. I went and looked at their paperwork. I mean, like I said, I do a little work for you before I just spout. Let me put up their own paperwork where they will tell you, we are services, Shazam. So that is part of the definition phase of this large trust document, which is hundreds of pages. Before the internet really went into detail, I'd have to sit down and read this when I was doing the mortgage-backed security work. So that servicer is telling you exactly what Capital One Bank is, who's suing my client. We're services. For the servicer to become the plaintiff and have standing in this case or the case against you, there must be an assignment, and it makes sense. It must be an assignment back from the secured trust back to CapOne, who just gave everything. If that doesn't exist, in other words, the debt does not get assigned back to CapOne, guess what? You're only going to be sued on the account, which is not demonstrative or of the actual debt you're being sued on. But nobody's asking this. Nobody's putting this forward. I am, and hopefully you are, as a beautiful defense to, I don't owe the debt to this company. And their own paperwork, again, that's because that's my mantra. What's my mantra? Exactly. Use their own documents against them. So you're going to use that affidavit I showed you, nothing about debt. You're going to use the complaint, nothing about debt. You're going to have your counter affidavit, which will incorporate everything I just said, along with your allegations of the fact that A, it's in a secure trust, B, where's the word debt? That's not such a small thing. It's, again, telling you, well, why wouldn't they sue on the debt? If they owned it, they would. They may own the accounts, but that's not something you can be sued upon. And what about the debt? You still are subject to being sued on the debt, right? So, by the way, also, with all trusts, when there is a default, and there's plenty of language in their paperwork, again, their paperwork, you just got to read this stuff. It's a little hard. There are forms that the owner trustee or the indenture trustee, which are terms of art of people that control the trust, that must be filled out, and that's how you assign back a debt back to CapOne, whoever it is. Ask for that. If you get into discovery, which with securitization cases, they're going to give you a little issue, so they're going to get a collection of discovery requests from me saying, tell me more about the securitization. Where's the affidavit? And I went into depth with JP Morgan video. It's okay to go to a JP Morgan video or a Discover Bank video, because this is all the same stuff, so that if there's something I missed here, you can get something there, including discovery stuff I send out. Believe me, just sending out those discovery requests, you can settle the case right there. They don't want to go into the securitization because, frankly, you probably know more than the attorney on this case does. So, ding! So, you need to focus on securitization with creditor cases. But again, they are third parties. What's a third party? Collecting on a debt. So the account that they're collecting on may or may not be viable, but they inevitably have to pay the secured trust. I just came up with a great discovery question. I'll get into that later. But the servicer, which is CapOne in this case, I'll quote their documents. As servicer, the bank, which is CapOne, will receive a master trust servicing fee. Each month, a share of the master trust servicing fee allocated to Comet will be further allocated to each series of notes. So very briefly, an investor will buy into a securitized trust, and in response will get back notes. Hey, look, I have a note. I've lent you money, trust. You've given it to CapOne for their debt, and CapOne pays the money they receive from debtor to the trust, that the guy with the note can get his payment for his investment, and as servicer, the bank will receive a master trust servicing fee. See, it's very easy. It's just a deal they made. So the deal that you will not make with this CapOne artificial plaintiff is to pay them unless the terms are favorable, with a lot of more things you have to take into effect. But use the securitization of it all as a settlement possibility, or a way to mitigate what you don't owe to Capital One. Now, you're not going to go full in and go, I'm going all the way to trial or something, because the judge, you got to take judges out of it as best you can. But the attorney, he will litigate and mitigate to get this out of his hair, because he doesn't want to take a chance with a judge, or a judge saying, you know what, I agree with this securitization, which I mentioned in other cases, the JP Morgan case. You got to think way down the road. So use securitization. In my show notes for this membership website, collectionstoppersolutions.com, I've put a couple of links and some paperwork as to showing you exactly what the securitized trust looks like. All that goes into your counter affidavit, all right? Let me just put it up there quickly, Shazam. In this case, they have an affidavit. You must, it's imperative, that's why I call it a counter affidavit, have a counter affidavit. Because in some jurisdictions, if you fail to do that, then it's automatic that you owe the debt, and all they can talk about now is how much you owe. And the judge will love that because he wants to get you off the docket. Look inside my counter affidavit and see, hey, these guys are debt collectors is what I'm saying. They now need to validate the debt. I want you to send CapOne, through the attorney, the validation request. They will either respond or not respond. Either way benefits you, because the more they give you, the more their stuff sort of falls apart with my philosophy that it's all pretzel litigation. They're trying to steer a way around the securitization of it all, which just dooms them. Most cases where someone is sued, it's my view, none of them have the right to sue you. It's the feeling I get is when I had the mortgage-backed security cases. I'd say, Judge, this person can't take the house. It's owned by the mortgage, and they don't want to get into that because the whole thing collapses. But with debt, it's a little different. You're not talking about a house, you're talking about an account. So you can get away with some really good stuff. Just present, and again, my show notes, I've added some links for you to go and take a look at the securitization of all that you can add to your specific counter affidavit, as I was talking about, and make it real. Demonstrative evidence is the key to winning. So show them the securitization of it all. Show them, meaning the attorney who you're selling and the judge who you're convincing. Show why it's a third-party debt being collected on and CapOne is a debt collector. And if you have to, go deep with discovery. Just asking those discovery questions can get you in a better place and scare them off and get the debt settled the way you want to do. Maybe a lower payment plan or a lower lump sum. But this stuff is designed to put you in better position to settle these creditor cases. All right, so once again, that's the securitization of it all as a defense. Like, love, subscribe. Let me know if there's more you need or less. And then just rock it. We're going to keep rocking it. I try to get 2 or 3 of these out a week. And that's what people are asking, more videos. But I also have my day job I got to do, so I'm cranking it. Go to our membership website. A lot of times in the early days, when I just couldn't take a case because the client couldn't afford me and I had bills to pay just like everybody else, it's my stock and trade, it's my time, I would send people away just Oh, who's going to help them? And I would help people for free. I felt so bad. Now with the membership website, I don't get to send people away. For a small fee on the membership, they get 30 years of this nonsense, good nonsense, right there. Templates, videos on how to use the templates. It's not advice, it's how to take action in your state. And the templates are enormous. They're fantastic. They're in Word. And I don't want to be one of those services where they go, well, here's your answer, you deal with it. No, here's your answer. Here's an answer that I've worked on. Here's a video and why. Here's securitization. Here's third-party collection. But I want to give you everything. And it's silly price for everything. I've given you the world for a drop in the bucket. I hope that makes sense. And I hope this made sense. Have a good day. Thank you.